Hello, everybody. Welcome to Feedback Friday. This is where Tim and I review resumes and portfolios. We do this every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and everything is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. The factor there is if you want to share something with sensitive data on it, your phone number on your resume, for example, you may want to censor that before sending it our way. If you want to get your stuff on the list, normally you'd add your link in the chat. We are booked up for the day, but would love to see you at a future Friday. We have a guest today, Tarika. Hello, welcome. Glad you're able to join us. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Tarika. I'm a product designer at Amazon right now. And I currently work on building agentic AI experiences. I've been in this designing for AI about 4 years now. And yeah, that's all about me.
Tell me how to pronounce your name one more time.
Tarika.
Tarika. Am I anywhere in the ballpark?
You're in the ballpark. Yeah, you're pretty close. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, glad to have you here. So excited you're able to join us today. Tim, I'm looking at the list. We've got all kinds of folk out there. We're going to start the day with Rahul, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, hopefully. Rahul Kashyap. If you're out there, put your hand up or Tim will find you.
Is that the one who shared the www.ibawad.com website?
No, that one was me.
Okay, that's just you. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let's go ahead and I see you, Rahul. I'll go ahead and invite you up. Oh, they're not here. They're not here. We'll have to pass them by since they're not in the call anymore.
Rahul hopped out. I think Rahul was the person we didn't get time for last event. So maybe they'll jump back in after this and we can circle back to them. But next on the list then would be Xander.
I am looking. Xander with an X. I see you. Xander, I'm going to go ahead and invite you. They're also not here in the call.
Where are they going?
I don't know. Great question.
They were here 3 minutes ago. What happened?
Correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't see them in the call. They're not here right now.
No, I believe you. I'm imagining when you're picking folk out of the audience, in the mental model I have in my head is those claw machines at the arcade. That's what I'm imagining you're doing. You're currently sixth.
You can see my computer. I actually don't have a keyboard. It's just a claw machine over here.
It's just a joystick.
Reaches over.
You're currently sixth on the list, but getting closer and closer to the front every time now. Next on the list is locedini. Locedini, please say you're out there somewhere.
I see locedini. Inviting them to speak and opening their portfolio right now.
Yeah, hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, good morning.
Hey, if you'll go ahead and start off by just sharing with us, first of all, what should we call you today? And then maybe a little bit about your background and context. What kind of designer are you? What are some of your goals? And then if we were to best help and support you, let us know how to do that, where we can focus our time and effort for you today.
Okay, so my name is Chopra. I am currently located in India and I intend to be an industrial designer, so more so like physical product design. So currently I'm in my gap year. I am finding or rather like giving entrance exams for my college. And so the area I'm at right now is essentially that I didn't exactly land into the college of my preference. And the course itself isn't exactly catered for product design, which is what I intend to do, right? So physical product design. And since the course itself is more so like digital oriented, I wish to, try to get ahead of my peers and try to, explore myself, which is why I want to work on a portfolio through which I can hopefully get into internships like before I get into college, which is say in like a few months itself. And for my website, it's like fairly simple, as you can see. It just features my resume, a few of like the in detail documentations of like per project, and it's just like a PPT which I just put into the website. But I kind of want to understand if I were to put this in a website, how that would work, because I feel like it's sort of too amateurish to frame professionally, but also like whether I should be including all this fine art stuff. And if I were to work on it, where do I really begin? Like, do I look at like examples from Dribble, because I have like a few references, but I'm not exactly sure like how to go about it. Yeah.
I was an industrial designer too. I totally get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
This is perfect. I'm glad you're here then, Tarika, because we do not have experience or expertise in physical product design, and you will probably be the insight here of any factual evidence. Let me ask locedini real fast. I might have missed a goal of yours. Typically, when we speak with students and folks in academia still, there is a bramble of goals between like, I want to position myself for career growth and career longevity, but also my school requires me to, I have assignments in my school and I have objectives that I have to meet for my academic criteria. Do you have any of those goals or constraints with your portfolio, or is this fully extracurricular? You're fully going for career level?
Yeah, completely career oriented.
Excellent. No constraints then from an academic perspective. That's awesome. Tarika, if you're willing, I'd love to just pass the mic over to you and lead the way in regard to what do you think about locedini's portfolio and potentially what options does he have in moving forward? What sort of actionability does he have?
Yeah. So, Lucidini, so you said you're still in school and you're looking for internships before you go to a college, right?
Yeah, so I took a gap year just to develop my portfolio, but at the moment I have like a few months before college actually begins.
Okay. But you have gotten into college, right? So this is not to get into college or anything.
Yeah, I've already gotten in. I just have to select from the few, but the selection I have, it's like mediocre.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Um, yeah, I'm just scrolling through. Do you and are you so yeah, I mean, my quick hunch, just looking at it, I think you have some great stuff here. But if you're targeting internships, I think um, you can think about how you want to tell your story first. Right now, it's a very sort of scroll through experience. So just the moment I land, I think nowadays the expectation is like the moment you land on the portfolio, what does it tell about you in the first 1 or 5 minutes?
Okay.
So how would you approach that?
So probably an about me. Yeah, I didn't exactly think of that. I think like I mostly thought that it was a bit too amateurish. Like I didn't think like my works were at the level yet. But I think I should probably include like maybe an introduction about myself because when you go into the website, like it just straight up into the portfolio. So maybe I'll work on like an about me.
Yeah, I won't be worried about like the quality. I think as designers, we undermine our stuff pretty early on, and I think
Okay.
it's a different exercise to just hone that muscle and be proud of the work you have. It's like it's all about how you present your work and it's great that you're starting so early. Honestly, I didn't think of all of this like till I got to college. So yeah, just think about like you have the right stuff, just how you would like to, present it to a person who just has 5 minutes.
Okay.
Hey, Tarika, one of the things Tim and I like to talk about are the target audiences for that of portfolios. And when it comes to product design portfolios, we reminisce about the audiences of like hiring managers, recruiters, peers. I don't have enough knowledge here to know if those target audiences are still relevant to that of physical product design. How do you feel about those?
I I hmm. Well, I've been outside of the industrial design world for a few years now, but I think it it's still relevant. In fact, like when I used to see industrial design portfolios, they used to be almost editorial, more editorial than even like UX design portfolios in some manner, because like y- you're really just focusing on showing the product that you've built, its capabilities as if you're the product manager. So you're not talking about like it's. I have seen less of the process and more of that. Here's the product, and then like there's a small snippet about the process. That's what I've seen for industrial design portfolios majorly. um, if you're doing like a website kind of portfolio. Of course, but I think in any world, I think industrial or UX, the networking has helped me a lot more than just reaching out. Sorry, just applying. Um, so, like, if you have already made some connections in your college, like the college you're gonna go to, maybe that would be a great place for you to reach out to some of those professors, or apply to some uh, college level jobs or internships where you can actually contribute.
I like that thought process a lot.
Right. So I was thinking, like, should I add like hero, what was it? Hero renders for like the products? Because like now that you do say it, like I think yeah, I should probably like try to market the product more. Because I was thinking that I would have to like showcase the process more, but in the portfolios I've seen, if you don't attach the process, like, do you just like entirely remove the process? Because like, where else do you like exactly show it?
No, have the process. I think, but that is not like the hero of it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, like I see a lot, like look at some, like you already mentioned dribble, but like look at some editorial magazines or websites
Okay.
for furniture design, for example, or like for consumer electronics. That would be a great place to get inspired from, because that's like selling your product. Sell the product first and then dive into the process. Like get
Okay.
them
Yeah, that makes
attracted to what you're building, right?
yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when you started this call, you mentioned that right now your website is primarily comprised of these slides, and you're wondering if maybe transitioning to a different format may favor you more. I'll weigh in super briefly, which is I think it would help you win navigation. Navigation is really important. It helps us to introduce opinions to someone, helping them understand when to make a choice over something else. Right now, the opinion of your website is straight up and down. It's just one. It's one
Yeah.
track right now, right? And you don't necessarily present a lot of choice to the user. And I think there's strength in that for sure. But it's also totally possible that one of your other case studies may appeal a little bit more to your audience and may suit the person who's reading it. So spending some time on your landing page design, maybe presenting your different case studies up front a little bit differently, and sharing an opinion about the deployable shelter is most important for people looking for these types of process, this type of result, etc., or chair design or paintings, and separating these out, making the differences very apparent so you can lean into different strengths, which may suit you depending on what types of roles you're applying to. Some jobs may favor certain parts of the process, or they might find something relatively unique that they wouldn't see in one of the other case studies. That'd be my recommendation. You do have it a little bit here, but I think you could there's still a little more room to add a little bit more information, maybe a little more of a preview information here. You could add maybe some images even inside this selection area. I wouldn't say your website though is also mentioned at the beginning was maybe like this idea of like amateur or not like ready for people to look at. It's all about packaging. Like this can be as professional as you want it to be as long as you package it and present it with confidence. And give it some confidence. Lean into it. Be proud of this. It's pretty cool to look at. It is hard to consume though, and because it's hard to consume, it's hard to understand. And if I don't understand it, I'll have a hard time discerning the value and the skill that you have put into this through your own craft.
That's fun to that. Also, I guess we think of portfolios as just a website. If you're looking for internships, think about how you surface these case studies on different surfaces, website, maybe many designers now have Instagram, like they are pretty much influencers. And you can surface these kinds of case studies in a more marketable fashion on Instagram, Dribble, and I think there were some other platforms as well. That's also somehow many people have gotten internships.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
There's another thing that's coming to mind, which is a yes and to what Tarika was mentioning earlier. And that is when it comes to getting a job at an organization, cold applying for applications and jobs, that's been the strategy that most folk have used. It's one of the less effective strategies. And the most effective strategy is referrals through an organization, directly bypassing the filtration process and just getting a yes and already within the organization. So Tarika was mentioning earlier about building your network. I want to doubly emphasize that. And there's a clever, somewhat sneaky trick you can do here. Most folk are already aware of like reaching out on LinkedIn, but if you're applying for a larger organization, and I have goals for a larger organization, it's often the case you can find folk that work at that organization on mentorship platforms like ADP List. If you're struggling getting cold networking referrals with folk, just book a session with them on ADP List. Guaranteed for them to show up. Kind of a sneaky tactic there for you.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that at all. That's very. I didn't expect that kind of advice when I was going into this. Honestly, I just thought that I just like display the portfolio. I get like the advice, and then next time I can come, and then maybe you can tell me like how I made the changes, whether like they're negative or positive. But like that's great advice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate the kind words. Tim, I'm looking at the clock. Locedini, do you feel like you've got some actionables here? Are you feeling okay stopping it there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Hey, really appreciate you hopping on the call with us. And I know it was an accidental first call of the day, but appreciate you being willing to step up there first thing to the mic.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Next on the list, Tim, we're going to circle back to Rahul and Xander.
I did. I checked them, but they're not here yet.
All right. I'm going to remove their names from the list entirely then. After Locedini, we've got Rachid.
Rachid, I'm inviting you up to the stage. Once you get up here, if you'll go ahead and share, first of all, how we should say your name. And I'm fond of saying this, so I finally get to say it today, but kick me in the shins as many times as it takes for me to say your name correctly. That's something I'm trying to work on and get better at, saying people's names the correct way. And then after you share a little bit about your name and yourself, if you can share something about what kind of designer you are in the market that you're appealing to, maybe specialties or any sort of niches that you're a part of, and then your specific goals for today, such as improving your portfolio to get hired, maybe going through a resume, organic discovery, networking tips. Let us know how we can help you. Our goal is not to do a portfolio roast today. We're way too friendly for that. We don't have the heart to roast people. We want to instead be collaborative and friendly and help others make as much progress as they can. So tell us where we can be there. I'm not hearing any volume right now, Nate. I don't know if it's just me, though.
Hello?
Oh, I heard something. I did hear something.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Rachid from Morocco. I have a little, different background from, uh, not actually, I didn't actually study art or something. So I studied law at university, and I dropped out. So I didn't actually finish, the whole thing. And I actually studied some courses in the hospitality. I worked there, and before moving into product design. And after that, I actually studied the Google UX design course. Yeah, so I believe that's it. I did actually study or follow some Figma courses, and yeah, that's it. That's pretty much it.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Totally. Designers come from all sorts of backgrounds, especially inside the tech, UX, UI, product world. And that's totally fine. I think we're really embracing of that. And it gives people a lot, it makes us well-rounded and helps us understand the people, the customers, the users, the clients, whatever you call it. I may have missed this though. Can I ask what some of your goals might be right now? Such as, are you looking for a job right now? Maybe you're trying to upgrade your job. Maybe you're just building a portfolio because you want one. Can you tell us more about that?
So, I created this portfolio as an MVP, so I didn't actually spend more time. I just wanted to get feedback. So if I am actually, approaching it the right way, and yeah, so you actually asked me about upgrading or getting a job. I'm actually not just trying to get maybe an internship or maybe some entry-level job or something. So yeah.
Okay, so entry-level candidate looking inside the product designer space, or is that product or UX?
Well, the product design in general. So yeah.
Okay, cool. Nate, where do you want to start with this? It looks like I was just going through it. It's a single pager. It is built in Framer. We do love a Framer portfolio. It's a great place to be. But there's I think there's a lot of directions we could take this.
How do I pronounce your name?
Actually, Rachid, or yeah, however you pronounce it.
Rachid, is that okay with you? Does that work?
Yeah, totally.
Excellent. Rachid, pleasure to talk with you. I love looking at websites like this because this is a phenomenal example of a really awesome first draft that has a lot of opportunity for growth and a lot of capability depending on which direction you want to take the conversation. You use the word MVP. That is terminology that a lot of entry-level folk don't fully comprehend and understand the value of. And I love that you're building this publicly in draft stage. Your website is doing a lot of stuff really well. And now now it's like, okay, well, what do you feel like is holding you back currently from iterating on this MVP? Like, we can talk about the case study that you have. We can certainly recommend UI adjustments and some of the constraints with your current flow. But let me just ask you, like, what about this is currently holding you back from iterating?
Well, actually, like, it took me just less than 24 hours to build it. So I didn't actually put enough effort or so. So I just, as I said in the beginning, I treated it as an MVP to just test the water and check, and get some real feedback from experts. So if they can direct, or give some tips, advices, so I can then put the effort with the correct direction.
Nice. Love that mindset. So I'm thinking, Tarika and Tim, let's do this. I'm thinking we do high level, shallow view of the entirety of the site, like not diving too in depth in one particular area, just validating momentum. Let me start the way here, Rachid. I've got a couple of thoughts here. If we look at your current page, it's broken up into, I think, 2 sections. One is the value prop at the top, and then 2 is the content of your case study. And when it comes to, if we were to take what are the most important sections that hiring managers, recruiters, peers are looking for in your product design portfolio, I would argue that those are probably the 2 most important, highly prioritized sections, followed by potentially your about page if we target that third peers audience. So I think in regard to MVP, you're kind of killing the direction here. Value prop, we can dive deeply down. Your case study is hitting all of the marks that we would typically see in a linear, more waterfall-esque approach to product design, which is reminiscent to that of the Google search. So that's making sense to me. There are some consequences with that, but for MVP shenanigans, I don't think it's worth diving into. Overall, I think your momentum is correctly heading in the right direction, and now it's iterating and adding those other 2 case studies, potentially the other 2, and then iterating on that MVP and then adding that about page. So for me, those are the 3 actionables I would want to see next. Tarika, challenge any of that. How are you feeling about all of that?
Yeah, I agree. I think directionally, information architecture wise, Rashid has pretty much, he's in the right direction. Um, yeah, um, I, I agree. Yeah.
While we're talking about portfolios, let's do a quick plug for what a portfolio does and doesn't do. I often describe portfolios as a miniature you on the internet, which the catch 22 is because you are not on the internet, just your portfolio is. It's always standing in for you when people meet you online. So it kind of has to do the work of introducing a little bit about who you are, but also trying to figure out what people are looking for. You should build it with some built in opinions then about targeting an audience. And so understanding the who is coming to your website and what exactly do the people coming to your website want? What are they looking for? And if you can introduce yourself to them by talking about the things that they're interested in, it helps you to seem a lot more valuable and much more relevant. And these are the people who they will spend time reading about, going through the portfolio for, and looking at. And for this reason, it's not just about the visuals, and visuals are good, don't get me wrong, but the copywriting, which is the text. The copywriting matters a lot. Um, I also want to plug really quickly, since we're talking about this as an MVP. I have a strong opinion about this, Nate. I don't know if you've heard of this, but I think an SLC for a portfolio is a better model than an MVP for a portfolio. Have you heard of an SLC before, Nate?
Nope.
News to me too.
An SLC is simple, lovable, and most importantly, it's complete. An MVP is the minimum viable product. MVP. And so when you talk about minimum, there's like a sense of haphazardness there. It's incomplete, right? It's viable. Viable does not mean excellent, though. And product has a sense like it's a product for sure. But I think when you make something a simple, lovable, complete product, it doesn't need to do everything in the world, right? It can be, it's okay if it's a little simple. Maybe you only have one or two of your case studies, or maybe you even only have like previews of your case studies. But the fact that it has a couple things on there and it does those things very well makes it lovable and it makes it feel very whole. And people who experience an SLC come away feeling, I think, a lot happier, right? You're happy you experience something that's very lovable, very completed, versus an MVP. Maybe you can see the potential it has one day, but it might not have the good UX that a simple, lovable, complete. So as you're working on your portfolio, I would say don't get caught up in the weeds. You know, if you're looking at this and you think you need to have every single case study laid out beautifully with every single section really, really well thought out, I think that's a great goal to move towards. But also focusing on portfolios and you know, introducing yourself, maybe with even just a simple one pager. Doesn't need to have everything in the world. Maybe it doesn't have all the drag interactions or all the animations. But if you write a couple of strong words about yourself and introduce your value effectively by understanding your audience and where you're going, people will be more inclined to probably interact and chat with you.
Thank
Plus
you
one to,
so much.
and one other thing I'll add is just in the effort of just simple. Um, Sometimes you, maybe you don't even have to stick to like creating the entire case study at once. I've seen a lot of designers just show like one image or like one or two images of what their product or case study is about, and they can write coming soon or something like that, just so that they can still put the case study out in the world.
Okay, I do have a couple of material suggestions for you, though, about your portfolio, if we have the room to talk about them. One, do you know what type of job you would like to get? Meaning, are you looking for freelance roles or are you looking for full-time roles?
Well, I believe I'm actually leaning to full-time job. So yeah, full-time job.
Okay. If we look at this from the lens of a full-time job, this is your website. If you're imagining the hiring process for a full-time job, typically, and I'll try to draw this as coherently as I can. We're going to call it FTE, full-time employment. The full-time employment cycle typically means you apply to the job. You apply to a job, and then you go through a couple of different steps, and you either pass or you fail those steps. With that in mind, we can think about how people come into your website. It is very likely that you will give your portfolio as a link on your application, which means that we should suit your website for helping people understand that, one, they have the right person. Exactly. Like they click the right link. Two, this is part of your application. So they probably already know at least a little bit about you. They're just looking for maybe more human elements of who you are, and you helping to connect some of your more academic materials to now your professional craft material. For that reason, I would love to see more you here. This is very small. We have a it's and then your name here, and then a very small value statement. But this is also contrasting the top value statement here. So I think you have competing value propositions, and I think we could probably, Nate, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think we could probably just remove this top one in favor of making the bottom one stronger.
Yeah, I have no arguments with that whatsoever. We could talk about value prop for quite some time, but I think that's a strong start.
Yeah, I think focusing a little bit more on who you are as a person here too. That could be adding a little bit of like maybe a profile picture here or something up here that's just a little bit visually interesting that I'll start to associate with you. It's really challenging to do this. It can be very difficult to do it, honestly, because you have to choose something that people will visually associate with your identity. And so you have to make sure it's invoking the right emotions. It has the right level of professionality to it. It feels technical. It feels approachable. And it feels delightful, right? That simple, lovable, complete thing. Super easy, right? So it's often best to just choose like a nice human picture of yourself here. And so people get to see your face and then they know a little bit more about you just by seeing you. And they remember your name and who you are because they've seen your face, and humans remember humans' faces a little bit better. A second thing I'll recommend is not just improving this section to talk about you a little bit more, might be your CTAs here. It's probably most likely true that if you've applied to someone's job, they already have your email. And probably emailing you is not the number one thing they're going to want to do, right? If you think about this in terms of the hiring process, you apply to a job, maybe you pass the ATS system, which we can talk about later. And now there's a person who comes to your website. And if you think about the questions that this person who comes to your website might have, might be like, who is, who are they? It might be, are they a real person, by the way? We see a lot of AI scams. People are not always who they say they are. But there also might be, are they professional? And so you could do a couple things just with your navigation to start answering maybe some of these questions. You can include a little bit of like an about section up here. Maybe you can include the name of some of your projects up here. You could also maybe include even your name in the top. That way people remember whose website that they're on, who they're looking at. And all these things can start to address some of the core and initial questions people have so they don't even have to ask them. They just know them, which lets them focus even more on the next most important thing.
Rachid, how are you feeling about all of that? Is all of that making sense?
Yes, totally. Yeah. Actually, I didn't actually did any quite research who is going to see the portfolio or so. So, this makes sense.
Totally. I also, wanted to just reaffirm, in the spirit of like collaboration here, it's a really strong start. You've got a lot of the right sections here, right? I can see like if we were to go into your case study, it looks like you have a problem area, you have a impact solution area, I think you probably have many of the right ingredients. We just got to mix them together, and then we'll make the cake that is the greatest product designer portfolio of all time, right in front of us. Nate, do you have any other quick wins we can maybe share in the little bit of time we have?
In regard to quick wins, I think that's a good place to probably pause. Like Rachid, there are other things we could talk about. They're less important than the top 3 things I think we've already talked about. I would rather, particularly in regard to MVP philosophies, I would rather you focus on those things, and then when you're done testing and iterating, come back again and we'll do another review. How's that sound for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be here maybe next Friday, or maybe, yeah, I'll be here actually.
It sounds great. If you build this in 24 hours, I'm excited to see what it looks like in a work week from now.
Well,
I'd also invite you to play around with size a little bit. Obviously, I'm just doing this, and this is the worst version of it, right? Where you just make something bigger.
Enhance.
enhance. But I think it's okay to play around with a little bit of size and space and give you a little bit more room here. And so even having a little bit, not to be vain, right? You don't need to over celebrate yourself, but you can also make it obvious that that's you, right? You don't have to hide that it's you, and it's okay to take the spotlight. They've come to your website. This is you. I think it's okay to put your name on it and to have that be a little bit bigger.
yeah. About the call to action button, is say that maybe the interviewer or the person who is actually landing on the website is having, could have the email obviously, but if they landed from somewhere else, for example, maybe Instagram page or something.
Totally. So that would follow probably under a freelance route. So when we talk about a full-time employment route, a very formal hiring process, it has to go through a lot of checks and balances. And there's certainly people who on that team will have a full-time job associated with just hiring people. If you want to go more of a freelance route, we can talk about that too. This ends up being a lot more project and need-based. And because it's project and need-based, because it's a little bit shorter and maybe not as long-term, right? There's something very like final about this, getting a full-time role. Whereas being inside of a freelancer project, it's project to project, it's more transient. And so it ends up being often less formal of a hiring process, right? You might hire someone just on a weekend to do something for you. And that means that having places of discovery such as, I actually don't know what the Instagram logo is anymore. It's like a camera, right? It's like a,
That's it.
That's Tim's attempt at drawing the Instagram logo, formally 2026 on this day. But if they discover you here and they're like, wow, I really like that. Then they might hire you for a couple $1,000, something that's not like really high stakes. And that's fine. That's your freelance mode. However, it is going to be very different from your full-time employment mode. You could support a little bit of both, but keep in mind that anytime you lean one way, you lean away from the other. And so just like many things, if you talk about mountains, you can't be on top of 2 mountains at the same time. If you tried to be on top of 2 mountains at the same time, you're in the middle of the mountains, which is the valley between them. And that's the lowest area to be. So you can still have your email on your website though. Like I have mine over here. I hide it in the corner right by my other socials. Not necessarily hidden, but I just know that people who come to my website probably already know how to email me. And if they don't, it's still there. They can find it. It might even be on you could put it on your resume as well. For a full-time employment process though, emailing you is probably not the number one thing that they need to do next.
Okay. About for example, maybe this is maybe something a little bit where I am deviating from, portfolio reviewing. But for example, if I had an idea, maybe just a concept project, I do have the idea in mind, I just sketch it, and without going through any certain process, like I just sketch it, wireframe, and to the final product. How am I supposed to like document the process if there is no process in there? Did you get the idea?
I track. I think I don't want to speak too much, so I'll say really quickly. I think I answered your question. If there's no process, you can't document a process. But I'd also say that's kind of where the magic is for process, is when we're talking about what a process is, it's really just a way of valuing and making decisions. And so if you are just going to do the default decision, the thing that's valuable is no longer the process, right? So, going through most design projects, such a nebulous word, but for most like work in the real world, we don't do a process to follow a process. We follow the process because it helps us make decisions and trade-offs and understand, what is the actual problem we're solving? How do we know for sure that's the right problem? And then saying, how do we get to the best solution? And your process is almost never the same from item to item, or from company to company, or from team to team, or even from like month to month. It's always going to be a little bit different. But the process is really just meant to show, how do you make decisions? How are you making choices along the way? And if someone doesn't have a process, to me, and I'm curious to see what Tarika will say today, but to me, if you don't have a process, it means you're not critically thinking about the steps that you're doing, and you don't really have a good understanding of where the value is for something. That'd be my quick response, but I'll pass it over.
Yeah. So I didn't actually like specifically mean for the actual products, but for example, a conceptual product, like just a hypothetical product, not real one. So
As in like a concept project and it was not just implemented, not out there in the world. That's what you're talking about?
yes.
I think even then, typically you would have some process. Maybe it's not traditional process that we categorize as product design process, but like just document everything. It doesn't have to be the traditional process anymore, especially in the age of AI. Um, and yeah, like as Jim said, like that is the number one process, is the number one thing any job interview would be evaluating you on. Like they have whiteboarding challenges, for example. They care much less about the final design that you'll create, and much more about the process that you take. And again, it doesn't have to be the traditional one. They are, in fact, nowadays very surprised on what's the unique process you have created for yourself as a designer, and let that shine.
Yeah. But let's say I am firsthand, experiencing the problem, and I know exactly what to do. For example, I'm actually designing for myself as a user. So does that make sense? I didn't actually go through any certain process. I didn't actually interview any people. I didn't get like any certain data, whether from real people or like disk research or something.
Yeah, let me hop in.
still-
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No.
Can I? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm looking at the clock, and we'll have to move on to the next one fairly quickly here. But I wanted to circle back to your question here. So the question is, if a process doesn't occur, how can I showcase what the result looks like without disclosing the process? And what Tarika is describing here, I think is accurate. The value that a company gets from hiring you isn't the result of that, isn't the output of the thing you built. It's the outcome of the business enhancements and the business benefit that they achieve. The way they can value and validate that you are a person that achieves business value is through reviewing your process. So totally hear what you're saying in regard to like, hey, this particular conceptual project didn't have a huge process with it. The friction point will then be that particular project won't disclose and showcase the value you can provide to a company. If that were the case, I would urge you to like either iterate that and go back and build that process in. It's a little, I mean, that's certainly a little backwards, but you know, you do what you can with the resources you have. If that's not an option, let's work on another conceptual project and we build some of that process in that validates you are solving business problems. That's very easy to say on paper, but how are you feeling about that feedback?
Well, yeah. That's actually, there is a process, even if there isn't like not big one, but it's not the traditional one as Tarika said. But I think I got the whole idea right now. I know how to actually document whatever process is there. So
yeah, if I were to give you a barometer for like measuring success here, let's say you are a designer on a team and you go to the manager and you say, hey, I have a problem that I need solving. This problem is, I can totally solve this problem. No research needed. I can finish it. Oh, I can finish it within 3 days. The manager says, okay, what's the cost of that and what's the value that brings to the company? And that's where he's going to respond with, your anecdotal evidence of the value this brings is just not good enough. We need to know how much this is going to cost, how long it's going to take, what's the benefit for our business strategy. Those items are at play. So if you can, the barometer for success for you then is, if a manager asks you, how can I evaluate the value this adds to the company? If you can answer that question, then you know your process is heading in the right direction.
I'll just add one last thing here. If you have no process whatsoever for a particular concept project, and you just were like, I want to build this, that's great. I think then maybe you can build on top of that. Like if you've built a product or conceptual product already, maybe now you can do user testing and stuff like that. That's also, I think, a viable path. And that would be like I wanted to build something and then this is how I tested it and enhanced it kind of story.
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Rachid, really appreciate the time. I see Tim has written so much, and I imagine he has things to say. I am looking at the clock, Tim. Are you okay moving forward?
Yeah, mostly just summarizing it as we've gone along. The main thing is, if you're accepting defaults, the default decision, just your instinct, I would really challenge that. Instinct and intuition can be kind of off. So just always be careful of that. Even if you think you know exactly how to solve it, there's still a lot of value in checking yourself and looking around to make sure you're absolutely correct. But thanks for your time. We appreciate having you on and being able to share us. And we look forward to seeing you in the future as you continue to work on this.
Yeah, thank you so much, team. Thanks, Nate. Thanks, Tarika. I really appreciate you having, all these and giving me these all great advices and tips. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, appreciate you hopping on, being willing to chat with us. Tim, next on the list, we've got Dawn. Dawn, you are next up. Before we get to Dawn, we're going to introduce a segment that we're dabbling with, as we're going to call this the Soapbox segment, where we give Tarika a moment to describe any particular hot topics that are close to her mind right now. Tarika, you've got the mic.
Yeah. So I thought because we're reviewing portfolios, I could talk a little about how we can think about portfolios in the age of AI. I think I've been seeing a lot of portfolios with intent first kind of experience where initially we used to see portfolios where we're just laying out the case studies and guiding the customers along, like customers in the sense like whoever was the hiring manager looking at that. And now I'm seeing a lot more of you come in, you interact with let's say an LLM or Tarika bot, for example, and I tell you about myself without me being there. Or I guide you to the projects that you might be interested in based on, let's say, the job that I've applied to. It's it's not it's not that I'm suggesting that approach, but I think it's definitely an interesting interesting one. I think in general the with AI and with the capability of now building these portfolios very custom by ourselves via vibe coding, we can make our portfolios a lot more interactable and actually not bore the person even for 5 minutes who's coming onto our website. So yeah, that's something I've been thinking. Yeah.
What sort of actionables might you suggest? Like if one was to go the AI vibe coding route, are there any particular actions you might suggest, like one get started in that particular process?
I think like just starting from scratch for vibe coding.
Yeah, if you're asking me, yeah.
Yeah, I think the barrier to entry is pretty low actually right now. You do, I think there are a couple of this Claude Code, there's Cursor. Those are my favorite tools to do any kind of vibe coding. Of course, there's Claude Design as well now, but you don't have to stick to that. I think Claude Code and Cursor um, are very versatile. I think the moment you start vibe coding, if you've never coded before, then there might be some setup, but I think both these experiences can guide you very well to set up your workspace. But after that, I think um, in my first few weeks when I started vibe coding, I was pretty much just prompting just my thoughts and going along with that to build something. But as you to make the process even more robust, I've built in a couple of agents and skills now to that know how I work. So how I want to write, what kind of design system or visual theme I'm going for. Those kinds of things I've already baked in. So the more and more I vibe code, the more systems of systems thinking I'm going after. So I've already built in systems to create an even more curated experience for whether I'm building a product or building my website. Um, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, Nate.
Totally does. Hey, appreciate you being willing to share all of that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely get started with it. I think it's changed my perspective on the entire process quite a lot. And it's just made me very powerful, much more powerful as a designer than I was just a few months ago. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that mindset. For the folks on the call that haven't dabbled with AI yet, if you haven't heard it before, let me be the first to tell you that the learning curve to AI is much more shallow than you're probably thinking. It is so accessible. Tim, next on the list, we've got Don. Tim, I'm so sorry. We're talking about AI, and we haven't gotten to you yet. You're probably itching to talk about some AI shenanigans.
I'll just put it in the chat real quick. I did a full walkthrough about Claude skills and kind of how to set that up. I have not made a video about Claude agents yet, but they follow a lot of the same principles of skills. It turns out that a lot of the difference between them can be semantic in a couple of different settings. Nate, I was going to say, unfortunately, I've been checking, and Dawn is not in the call right now.
Dawn.
So we cannot review Dawn, but we can review y3rt.
I'm going to have to update my next up list. We've got people dropping all over the place.
So this will be y3rt, which his name is backwards for his real name. So I've invited you up to the stage. If you'll just reintroduce yourself to us a little bit, and then share some of your local context for what kind of design you do, what audience you serve, and maybe some of your immediate goals, so we can get you there. And then let me open this. I'm also going to open your. You've shared your resume, so I'm going to open that in the chat for us.
Yeah, Trey Kinzer doing just kind of all kinds of visual design, to be honest. Been on traditional graphic design, especially in print work, but then I've also done UI UX work and a little bit of software development as well.
A man of many talents. Trey, if you were to describe some of your goals right now, and maybe the reason that's motivating you to be in the call today, what would that be?
Probably over 1,000 applications and maybe somewhere close to 1% of interviews.
That's a pretty good motivator. I don't know if it's a good motivator actually, but it is a strong motivation. I totally hear in that. So Trey, as we look, I'm sure Nate will have some good ideas here too for us, but I wonder if it's worth talking about the process, Nate, and figuring out where in the cycle to spend our time, whether it is actually the resume or the portfolio. I think we did talk about this a little bit last time as well, but then maybe also positioning, since we have a couple of items up here that may all be fighting together.
Trey, let me ask you, is it okay if we showcase your resume on the stream here? It is being recorded and live streamed to the greater world. You're okay with that?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Yeah, Tim, go ahead and share.
That I don't have elsewhere, so.
All right, perfect. Trey, I remember chatting with you last time. You've got, I'm trying to remember the conversation. You've got an extensive background in the design space. You've been doing this for a lot of years. And I recall the difficulties you were having then as well with like, hey, I'm throwing my resume out there, but nothing seems to be working at an effective rate. So I'm stoked to be looking at your resume this time as well. Normally when we look at resumes, we look at typically folk that are closer to entry level. And then B, we have a sort of like this framework by which we narrow down focus on resumes. We start at the high level with like, do you have all the correct sections here? Is the thing you designed applicable for that of ATSs? And then we narrow down to, are the sections in the right order? Is the content here applicable? And then we go even closer to like, are the bullets structured correctly? I'm looking at your resume and I haven't dived in depth yet, but you're clearly like, this clearly looks like iteration 25 of your resume. Like it looks like you've been working on this for some time. Is that sounding right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would first say that like we're clearly in the optimization phase here. You're doing a lot of stuff really, really well. I'm tempted to, Tim and Tarika, where my mind is at as I see the multi-column layout, I'd like to challenge ATS compatibility. Is this the same resume you use for all your applications?
Yeah, and I generally, at least from what I can see on ATS stuff, it tends to still work. Some better than others, but generally it, in terms of when you dump it in and it automatically fills out fields for you, I generally don't have too many problems.
I'm feeling the same way. Like it is using a multi-table layout, which some ATSs will argue with. However, the way you've structured this is still, man, this is so hard to talk about without drawing a photo here. Tim, go ahead and share your screen and let's showcase the resume. You're not sharing the left column is all the jobs and then the right column is all the descriptions. You're doing like multiple different left column, right column tables, if that's making sense.
Yeah, in terms of how the text is actually built, it's actually all one like text block. In terms of in-app, because I actually use InDesign to build it. So.
Oh, yeah. And InDesign, talk about a robust application for delivering ATS-friendly PDFs. Okay. Well, Tim, Tarika, let me know if you see any low-hanging fruit here. Where my mind is at is diving into some of the bullets themselves.
For me, I think there's some structural things here we could talk about. One is we have a couple of lines that are so when we talk about resumes, the most important audience to format a resume for right now is the ATS, which is an applicant tracking system, which is to say it's a robot. This is the most important audience for resume right now. We have a lot less human reviewers on resumes than probably in the past. And so there's some things that I would recommend normally. It'd be like, yeah, this font's a little bit difficult to read, or it's very close together. And I think that's okay as long as the ATS is reading them. But I do think there are some some like structural things that are maybe irregular. Capabilities instead of skills is kind of interesting. Also having capabilities before your experience. I probably weight experience as much more important than your general capabilities or skills. I'd even say that if you're leaning for capabilities instead of skills, that just wrapping capabilities into each experience here where they belong probably is a little bit more effective than listing them this way. You also have you have a serious, you can go way back here. And I imagine that there is probably more opportunity inside of each one of these than you've done here for three-ish bullet point. Oh, actually exactly 3 per item. And that might be underrepresenting the work that you've done here in your direct explicit skill. So just taking the time to probably, and Nate will talk about this, but crafting each of these so they're a little bit more powerful per bullet, but also giving yourself room to maybe do 4 or 5 bullets instead, by reducing some of the noise of either this section or even like your summary here. We don't typically see a lot of value in having summaries. Sometimes they can pull punches, but the summary really is for human readers when the ATS doesn't necessarily care about summaries. So.
One to that, I think I agree we can, capabilities are typically seen at the bottom. What people care about the most is the experience you've had. Summary has, again, as Tim said, it has help, but maybe to a human reviewer. You can also just look into actually crunching it up. I have it, but it's just 2 lines and that's it. So you have more real estate to shine your experience.
Okay.
Another thing you could look into is just chronologically, I would imagine that your most recent job has the most to speak about. Because as you grow, you have more impact, I would assume. So you could put a lot more, dedicate a lot more real estate to your most recent job and talk more on that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Trey, I've gotten a second look here. I've got 2 thoughts that I think are probably in top of mind here. Well, how do you feel about, I remember talking about this briefly last time. You're a Renaissance man. You've got so many skills in so many different areas. How do you feel about repositioning and focusing on one of those industries? For example, you've got visual designer, brand, UI, UX, digital experience. How would you feel about just focusing on UX?
Yeah, I mean, this, basically I've tried to use this as kind of this is my generic, not necessarily job specific, because I'll try and craft a little bit towards specific jobs when I'm applying, but this is just kind of my generic designer resume, and then I have one that's more leaning towards development experience.
Oh, interesting. Okay. God, that's fascinating, Trey, because where my mind is at is we're in an economic standard where there is a low supply of jobs available, but a high supply of designers available. And with those typical economic situations, it's advantageous to have, how do I describe this? Those with generalistic skill sets like yourself with a myriad of horizontal skills typically have the advantage because budgets are low. They can only hire one designer. Therefore, they hire Trey because he can do all of the things with some level of robustness. That said, because there is a high supply of designers, then there's typically also a prioritization for hiring designers focused in industry. So it's we don't want to hire Trey because we're trying to hire somebody dedicated to healthcare, and Trey doesn't have healthcare experience. So it's like a specialization in industry, but a generalistic skill set. And those are the kind of designers I would argue have the most advantage right now in the market. So that's why I'm thinking I really like that you've got all this generalistic skill set. If only we could target a particular industry, which would narrow down the jobs you could apply for. But I bet you all the marketing books behind me would argue that's by far the more effective route at getting you a job. have you thought about that at all and narrowing focus on industry?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the work I've been doing is in national defense. So, I mean, that's where a lot of jobs I've been applying for are, but it's also not a field with a lot of positions, not design related, that is.
Sure. Yeah.
Industry that is a lot of design positions, I should say.
Okay. Well, at 1,000 resumes per one hit, I'd be willing to throw in some A/B testing, and I would want to test two things. Like, one is narrowing down the title you're targeting, then narrowing down the industry you're targeting, but then extending your resume to 2 pages. I think you could totally justify 2 pages, and then it becomes an SEO strategy, because I'm fearful that you don't have enough words on your resume compared to that of competition, and the ATS is just finding more keywords to that of folks with 2 pages. I think your experience could use that to your advantage there. So those are my, if we were going to A/B test this, those are the things I would want to test.
Okay.
There's also a couple of things you've included in here that might serve to undermine you as well. You have to remember that a resume is not a background check. So the story still rests in your hands. And including things, especially for your top one, such as part-time or even volunteer, can kind of undercut the actual value and work that you delivered. I would probably just omit these for here. You could always answer them in a straight question, right? And you don't necessarily need to be deceitful. But I also think that including them here might derail a little bit the narrative that we're presenting here about your specific focus. As Nate was saying, 2 pages probably benefits you. I would love to see inside of these bullet points maybe more examples of each of these, right? Design and creative leadership. So maybe talking a little bit more about how you led to these things, maybe some of the milestones between redesign and the actual improvement. And we can also lead these bullet points with the gains versus putting them at the end. For example, right now, resulting in a 72% increase in traffic within 30 days, that's a great bullet point. You kind of have hidden the lead here at the end, though, at the end of this line specifically, versus 72% increase in traffic at a 30-day window for a 15-page WordPress website. And they talk about individual improving UX through etc. process, maybe how you measure your accessibility wins, and being a little more itemized per item here. Probably also gives you some of that keyword power and makes each of these, just every single experience on here, a little bit more weighty and authoritative.
Okay.
Also, that's pretty good. That's a 72 is not small. That's a pretty good gain. So kudos to that.
I mean, Trey, there are other things we could talk about here, but I think they're real. We can talk about optimizing your bullet points here to follow a why, how, what structure. But I think they are more cosmetic than the amount of other stuff we talked about. I think doubling your word count with 2 pages, I think that's going to be dramatically more effective than optimizing your bullets at this point. You're clearly in the optimization phase here. You've clearly put a lot of love and effort into this. I don't know, Trey. You've got more experience. You are well seasoned in the industry. How are you feeling about any of this feedback? Do you feel like it's at least some sort of A/B testing capability?
Yeah, I mean, some looking at particularly Tim's I'll call them notes, if you will, on the screen. The part-time and volunteer, those things are put in because in various iterations of resume, those are still listed as current positions. And for some employers, that seems to be a concern.
Huh.
That I'm not focusing on them. So that's why I've put those in there to actually try and help mitigate that a little bit.
Let me repeat that back to you. I think I'm following. As in, you're still freelancing on the side, So you want to declare it's part-time now, so when you do get an FTE position, they're aware that it's not a conflict of interest with your time.
Yeah.
Okay. Tim, or Tarika, I don't know if we've ever challenged that specifically, but I don't have any strong opinions on that. My gut would tell me that the company would be fine with it either way, because I think we typically all know. You've had feedback here.
Oh, I've had 2 companies specifically where I had to outline what the work was, who the customers I was trying to work with, hours that I would be working it, that sort of stuff in interview stages.
Interesting. I don't have any experience with that story. That's unusual for me.
Yeah, even like I something that's not on here is I have 4 nights a week I'm unloading trucks at Lowe's. I even had to reference that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that has come up in interviews, right? Like that has that been an issue to clear the ATS initially? Because like those are 2 different levels of information.
True. I don't know if it's come up at the ATS level because you never really get any feedback from that level.
Yeah, where I'm getting at is like resume is just getting your foot in the door, and like sharing too much could sometimes be harmful. Interviews is where you're being clear anyway, and it seems like it's already coming up.
Okay, yeah, and again, it's I guess rationalizing what I've done versus, yeah, and the
dates are in the past. So for me, I would be really surprised. I would consider this an interview mistake, honestly. If someone looked at this and said, "Hey, is this going to be a conflict of interest for you?" When you've listed this as previous
this
work.
version, I have them marked as past. In other versions, I've said it's current or present instead of an end date.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Gotcha. It might be best to date it to that month or even that year. Just saying, in general, 2026. Okay. But for me, I've never come across that problem, so that's not a thing I have authority to speak on. I will say though, advertising yourself as part-time will probably attract people thinking you're part-time. So if you include part-time tags, you'll probably get people will assume you're going to treat other work as part-time, or they might have questions about you might be working on the side or other things. Even for that regard, I've sometimes recommended to people that if they include their freelance work, especially as a whole category, I would include it last, even when it's not chronologically true. You just include it as maybe your last item, not because it's not valid or that it's not work, but just in general, people tend to treat freelance a little bit weird, especially from full-time roles. They might see it as threatening or that it's a side project to you and you're not going to be fully invested. And so I include it as the last one.
Okay.
Trey, I'm looking. Oh, go ahead.
The location stuff is usually because it's a concern. I don't know why, but everybody wants to know that.
Yeah. So that's something I leave up to conversations for me personally. When people ask me where I'm at, I talk about it. If you put it on your resume, you might just miss the conversation, right? So, and there's a lot of people who will, if you let the robot filter you out versus the human can be forgiving. A robot will not be forgiving. And so if you have to choose which one to lean on, which one to push buttons for, probably lean towards trying to get the favor of the people who may approve you later on in conversations where they ask these follow-up questions. But yeah, I totally get that. And it's a strategy, right? This is one of the things of like, you could go either way. It just depends on which position you would like to take. Including location inherently means you'll get more location-based roles or roles that are filtering specifically for location, especially because remote work is weirdly, people are being really weird about it. They're just being weird about it. And so there's a lot of in-person requirement now. And if you out yourself early on, you may miss the opportunity to have that conversation or even get wiggle room later.
Okay.
Trey, I'm looking at the clock. From my perspective, I think number one, like the first test is just double the word count with 2 pages. I think all the rest of this that we've talked about, I think maybe we can make some optimizations there, but I would start with only the double page. Now just see if that gets hits, and then we can optimize from there. I think the 2-pager stuff is going to bring you some distance.
Okay. Yeah, I've always held to the old school rule of a single page and fought to keep it there.
Totally familiar with that. Well, one of the things Tim and I have yet to do is schedule a time with a couple of recruiters and challenge some of these like old-fashioned techniques. Like, for example, we all grew up knowing that resumes had to be 1 page. Now that we're in the age of digital, what's to stop us from making that 1-pager like 18 inches long? Like, we have some real wild cards that we want to challenge with resumes because I think they're just outdated, old-fashioned tactics now that I think no longer apply. But that, future segment there, Trey. Well, I don't know if we provided any actionables for you. I'm bummed to hear that you're struggling getting a job, though. I mean, that really sucks for you. And I'm sorry that we don't have like more, here's the low-hanging fruit that we found beyond just the 2-pager.
No, I mean, it's still good advice, and I'll iterate and see what we can do.
Running it via some ATS systems yourself, Ray. I don't know if you've tried that. That will give you a good score of where you stand.
Okay. Yeah, for the most part, across most of them, it seems to work pretty well in terms of what I've got. There's one versus another system there's little flavor differences, if you will. But for the most part, have done pretty well in reading it. So.
Yeah.
Trey, appreciate you hanging out with us today. Would love to talk again in the future.
Yeah.
Tim, next on the list, we've got Papisuki. Papisuki, if you're out there still, raise your hand.
I see them. They are here. All right. If you will go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, let us know what to call you.
Yeah.
But then also, we can hear you. If you'll also let us
cool.
know a little bit about your background,
Sure.
specifically the type of design work that you work in, the industry, and then what your goals are, like getting hired, finding a new job, maybe upgrading. What do they call that? Promotions. Promotions, the word, etc. Let us know where we can support you.
Okay, great. So, first of all, thanks for calling me up here. I didn't think calling me up here. So I've been in the industry for a while, and I'm not really actively looking, but I'm passively looking. So, it's taken a while for me to put together a new portfolio site. So I just did that, and I've been asking around for feedback, and I haven't gotten a ton of feedback on it. So that's where, someone recommended come here. I have like 20 years experience, but every feedback will be valuable for me. So I consider myself more of a systems designer. I am starting to get more back into being an individual contributor, especially in the age of AI. So, but again, I'm just looking for just general on the writing on the site, on the visuals of the site, like how it feels overall. So those are just general feedback that I'm looking for. So.
Okay. So you are passively looking. You are a systems designer.
Yeah,
builder.
I have a design background in UX design. I've been a UX leader for a number of years. But for the most part, places that I've worked is really about designing how the systems work, how the processes work. It could be from going from, some of the companies that I work with have gone through pretty big transformations. So they could have been going from like an online, let's just say publishing to digital, or from like an institutional trading from something that they had unifying experiences under a platform. And now with this latest transformation with AI, I've been doing a lot of AI work as well. So again, it is a UX role, but I do consider myself more of a systems designer as I think how to put pieces together, if that makes sense.
Okay. What would be the job title that you think you're most likely to target?
Maybe a head of UX, maybe a principal UX or staff UX. Those are generally the levels that I've been targeting.
How do you feel about architect, UX architect?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what the goals are of the organization, but certainly, sure, yes, I would consider that.
Yeah. The only reason I mentioned it was because you had mentioned you were leaning toward the more IC route, the more individual contributor route, whereas head of UX, staff UX, those are typically more managerial positions, whereas architect would be typically the IC route. Understood. Totally following.
Don't mind me just stress testing the site a little bit.
Okay.
In regard to goals, I think I'm following what you're going for here. Passively looking for an FTE position. Is that sounding right?
Yes, that's right.
I love passively looking. That's just the best place to be, and a privilege that many of the folk in the chat don't currently have enabled for them, unfortunately. But I'm stoked that you're tackling this now, given the remnants of AI layoffs in enterprise environments. I think you're doing a lot of stuff here really well. For me, as I've scanned through a couple of things here, I don't typically talk about UI. I'm typically more on like the architecture, the theory side, the principles, and the storytelling side, more of the generic portfolio theory. For you, I think you're doing the theory really well. There are some minor things we can talk about, like your case studies could use some housekeeping at the top, but I think overall, the big like low-hanging fruit for me is really just better understanding the needs of the target audience here and working on some navigation. I think that's where my mind immediately goes, just enabling folks to immediately find your case studies and reduce that friction.
Yeah. I mean, I've gone through many iterations, and I didn't want to have just like a bunch of case studies, which is why I organized it by era. I think that makes sense. It makes sense to me, but it is very personal. So I don't know if the average user would come here and immediately see, oh, yes, this is the organizing principle of this experience. And then the other thing that I did to kind of augment that as potential confusion is you'll notice the little panel on the right-hand side. That will drive you directly to a case study.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. That wasn't my perception, but that's good to know. Let's see here.
So we can do, Nate, we could talk about positioning. I see some opportunities for positioning. I see some opportunities for just talking about, again, more of this UX stuff. I also have some stuff out there. We could go back and talk about, just like we did earlier, we could talk about the actual goals of a portfolio. And we could use that to say, does the portfolio solve these goals for them? Maybe we could talk about actually looking at a case study and reading the content. Does the content make sense? Or there's a lot of, I feel like there's a home run in every direction right now, which is not to say it's a bad portfolio, but there's just a lot to talk about here.
I think it's a solid portfolio, and now it's just like manipulating it slightly to best meet the accommodations of the audience. I think you're doing a lot of stuff here really well. There are just some unusual things that potentially break the typical processes that recruiters and hiring managers look for in portfolios. But it's like, talk about really easy things to adjust. You mentioned that you had gone through a bunch of iterations here. What iteration number are you on, do you think?
Probably on iteration 6.
Oh.
I'll probably redesign it every just something doesn't feel right about it. And I think this is the one that I've stuck with now for a week without making any changes. So, but again, I haven't really had a true critique of it. Sometimes I think that maybe it's a little bit overwhelming for people because you go and you look at a case study and, they're not short case studies. And not all of them just have like visual design or UI design. A lot of it, I think, is around the systems thinking. I ended up recreating a bunch of artifacts, like this artifact here. I recreated it because, I can't really post the artifacts that I generated on the job, right? So I'm recreating things to articulate to the user, like truly, what did I do? What my role was. And then I thought maybe they were too formal, so I started to add more casual language to them. And then I thought they missed kind of the messy middle, so I added a messy middle piece at the end. Again, lots of iterations, but haven't had anyone sit with it because, to be honest with you, it's not something that I share around with the people that I work with because I don't want them to think that I'm leaving.
Totally get it.
So,
Yeah.
I've got all kinds of thoughts. Tarika, I'd love to hear your gut reaction to this. Hop in here and describe like what's going through your mind as you see this for the first time.
Yeah, so I have a very similar problem, actually, because I work in AI infrastructure. So a lot of the times I can't explain, I can't actually show the assets I have created. Um, but at the same time, I have gotten feedback from people that you're throwing a lot of information to the viewer very at once. So I've been exploring like sort of progressive disclosure a lot for my pieces. That is something maybe you could explore. Um, yeah, and yeah, being a little more clear about what kind of jobs you're looking for. That could really help.
yeah. Yeah, I think professionally, I'm at a crossroads where, in the last maybe 4 or 5 jobs, I've been a leader in a group, and I've been missing more and more the hands-on work. So I've been doing it on my own time. And the perfect role for me would be a little bit of both, where I provide more strategic direction to potentially a team and then have also hands-on on the work.
Yeah.
But I don't know if roles exist like that. So,
That is, I think, what most senior level roles and above are now about. Like they are looking more for design strategy and just product strategy rather than the granular design direction. Like a lot of it now, I think in many of our jobs can be done by AI. So yeah, I think it's becoming a norm, what you're looking for.
I've got so many thoughts, Tim. You haven't spoken up just yet.
It's okay. I feel like once I start, I may never stop. But let's just make sure we're focused. So,
What comes to mind? By the way, how do I pronounce your name?
oh, it's pronounced Seraphim.
Seraphim. Let's talk about target audience here for a second, because I think there are some expectations that we can have the opportunity to like increase a little bit for them. So typically 3 audiences. Audience 1 is, let me start that over. For the YouTube short, got to get the whole context in there, right? There are 3 target audiences for your portfolio. There's the recruiter, the hiring manager, and then a third audience that we're calling peers. Recruiters are these are folk that don't have deep intrinsic understanding of who you are, and you already know this. You're a senior level folk here who have been through many recruiters, I have no doubt. For the folk in the chat, recruiters don't have deep, nuanced understanding of what you do. They're looking at job description A, trying to match it up to candidate A, and they're using a lot of like key phrase matching strategies. So there's some strategies we can do to assist in their flow. The second audience, hiring managers, they're primarily interested in your case studies, validating how you solve problems through process thinking, how you delineate certain business problems down into smaller pieces, and how you prioritize what pieces to work on first, that sort of stuff. And I think you're doing a lot of that really well too. The third audience are peers, and they're interesting in a couple of ways. So one is like these are folk that you would potentially work with in the future. Like the hiring manager They receive a bunch of resumes. They narrow it down to the top 20 candidates. Then they go to their peers and say, hey, peers, which of these candidates should I interview first? And that's where they come into the play of the process. And these folk care much more about who you are as an individual. Like, if I share a cubicle wall with this person for 8 hours, are they going to make my life miserable? Are they fun to hang out with? Are they personable? Are they interesting as a person? So for them, they care way more about your about page. And I don't know that I see an about page just yet. Is there one hiding somewhere?
The closest thing I have to it, build. That's a little bit of a personal message.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so this is interesting. The other reason I want to tackle targeting the peers audience is because, as we mentioned previously, by far the most effective method of getting a job at an organization is through referrals. It's through an inside connection. So it's like the about page also heavily assists in targeting that group. So we're trying to maximize your application strategy there. So where my mind is at, let's go ahead and build an about page and think of your about page closer to that of like a dating profile than a business document. I want to see like photos of you. Are you an interesting person? A little bit of blurb about things that are interesting to you, beliefs that you have, design philosophies maybe, but like some sort of Tinder profile that demonstrates, are you interesting as an individual? Are you an attractive candidate for the organization? And then for recruiters and hiring managers, if you're able to add in, like what Tarika was mentioning, a quick value prop that describes ideally who you are, what you do, who's your target audience, and what's the benefit to that target audience. That's like the strongest possible value prop. Most folks struggle with that a little bit. Value prop would go a long way. And then real fast navigation to your case studies, like a list of case studies in your nav bar, because that's like the recruiters, hiring managers, step one, read the value prop. Step two, find a case study. And at the moment, the case studies are just hidden enough that I'm fearful, like your case studies, the flow of your case studies is abnormal to that of the typical website. So I'm fearful that it's just a little bit too much friction for them. I'd love to see a nav bar.
I see.
That's my fear.
Tarika,
challenge any of that. How are you feeling about that rhetoric?
Well, I think I don't mind a different navigation system to get to the case studies. But I think through, because like when I land on this page, I don't know which one to go to actually get to a case study. I thought these are categories, and I think that is what it turned out to be. But maybe there could be like a just something like a text that says, these are my case studies, or like just a hint that I would find the case studies if I were to go to these categories.
Yeah.
I think in general, what I'm seeing is there's a lot, like experience-wise, just scrolling, it's very nice, but I think you have a lot of information.
I see.
And like a lot of write-up. And even the architecture diagrams, they are complex. So I think see what is the most valuable thing to show to someone looking at your portfolio, and see where you can cut. Because I think other than that, you have a lot of the right ingredients. And like I think Nate was saying, profile, like a lot about you will really benefit on this portfolio right on. Yeah.
And just one thing to like, just to kind of give you a sense for like why I went down this path is that I have a lot of old work that feels, maybe if you look at the visuals, it feels a little bit dated. But if you look at it as a book of work, as in like I spent X amount of time in this industry and I had this outcome, then I feel like it's more relevant to a lot of the what's happening today, right? Where there are a lot of teams that are trying to evolve, be more AI forward, you know. And what I'm saying is that I've been through a lot of these organizational transformations in my past, which is why I organized by era, just to kind of show, this is a repeatable pattern throughout, and I'm ready for the next place to kind of be part of that next transformation. So, but I don't know if that's coming across strong enough in, how the site is organized. But if you go to like any of those sections, you'll see like a short little write-up that kind of tries to tie things together in the context of like a transformation that has been made in this industry.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a preview of what I'll find in those might help. I think the approach is very interesting, like era wise. So I don't mind that. I think I just might need a little more set expectations here.
Mhm.
That's all. Yeah.
Like what sort of expectations? A
Maybe like the
preview of
write-up,
what's that?
maybe the write-up that you have when we go to one of these categories, or a preview of the case studies, just like what kind of case studies I might find here.
If you click on one of them, if you click on one,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the write-up for the book of work, right? Like on the left-hand side, it kind of outlines,
Yeah.
what this is, and again, if you go to the different eras, and the transition is meant to look like time as well. Again, a lot of subtle things that maybe the average user wouldn't pick up on. So, part of it is that I think I may be too close to it to see whether or not this is really resonating, or it just feels like a bunch of abstract things put together.
I'll take a moment to speak up. I think you fell for one of my classic traps. This is something I always look for. Is that sometimes when we give people feedback, they'll use the phrase, "Oh, if you do this thing," or "Let me explain." And anytime you have to explain your website to someone, you may be falling for the fallacy that is when people experience your website, you won't be there to tell them how to use it.
Yeah.
So having to explain, you must open up this to see the preview or to get an opinion on what to do, effectively means that this is invisible for most people. I'll weigh in here that my impression of your website right now is that it looks 100% vibe coded, and it looks vibe coded for two reasons. One, we have a lot of this abstract artifact that's moving, which is cool. We do like motion, but it doesn't really seem to connect very well with the actual design of information here. So there's not like a lot holding this together. The reason I'm seeing this doesn't make sense to me. The second thing is we have a lot of artifacts that on their own would work kind of, but don't hold themselves together. So like from a system architecture standpoint, this as a surface for navigation does not make sense when this is also a surface for navigation. And they have they go similar places, but they interact and feel so different. And you also have this as a navigation system, which is your footer. And for example, putting one of your core questions about who you are in a footer item next to socials is definitely there's a disparity here in terms of where you're going. Your affordances also seem a little bit odd to me. Just that, you hover, like if you were to look at this on the right-hand side, I'll just highlight this. On the right-hand side, this card over here is it's interesting because it looks very static. Like there's nothing over here that would tell me I should interact with this, right? You have a logo at the top. I recognize the ADP logo. I recognize the Goldman Sachs logo. And then I recognize the CBS logo. And these feel like labels. And for these to end up being button navigations as well, I think the affordance choice here is wrong, especially for it to be delayed on arrival. This ends up being one of the least prioritized items on the page, when I think this is maybe one of the strongest areas, or it should be one of the stronger areas, right? So if I go in here, your goal is to get me to this page. I need to go here to understand how you think and your exact value as an executioner, as a leader. And if I don't feel compelled to go in here, or if I have a hard time even understanding that I could go there, that's just not going to work. Over here, you also have some layout shifts. That's it's like a website build problem. So that's just something you can tinker with later. But I think having something like this is valuable. I would probably just make it scrollable, right? If I just scroll down the page a little bit, maybe I can get to this area. People who are coming to your website are probably not thinking in eras. This sort of mental model is not going to match your audience. They're coming here to see the type of work you do, and they're thinking in terms of probably titles, probably in terms of outcomes, etc., but probably not in terms of these types of categories. If you wanted to self-label categories, you could also do that on top of it, right? You could say like reimagining human as intelligent, human in the loop, and then you could put the label of like this is an AI agentic systems one, but also having the type of work and the process that you have here. That's a little bit more compelling, right? Like it also doesn't tell me, there's almost no opinions here about which of these is going to be most valuable to me. Like I don't know, I have no way of knowing which of these I should spend my time on, because which one you focus on isn't quite clear to hear me. I'm also missing a really big sense of maybe who you are. I help people make sense of systems they have to live inside. I feel like this is true. We haven't said that. This is maybe one of the first times. This is the longest time we've maybe gone a portfolio review without saying this. But value statements are more valuable and powerful the less generic and broad they are. And if you can take a value proposition and copy paste onto someone else's portfolio, you're probably a little too generic and broad. So coming here, reading this, I help people make sense of systems that they have to live inside. This is probably true for most designers who work with systems of any type, right? Saying that you work with systems is no longer like the golden valuable, the golden thing that used to be, because now most everyone works inside of systems. AI are scaling things. Most companies have systems of their own, or you help people will build systems because they get tired of it. And so labeling systems themselves doesn't necessarily bring specific value to you. I would need to hear more about maybe some of your outcomes that you've achieved, your specific processes, et cetera. And then maybe one more thing, I kind of posted in the Discord, but right now your contrast and accessibility across your website is also really suffering. It's so dark looking that the priority of text is really hard to capture, especially when I have to read relatively small, thin text. And there's a couple wins you could do something as simple as just bump this up 2 sizes, right? Give that 2 sizes of increase on your text, and that's already a lot easier to read. But your background is so dark here. It does technically pass accessibility minimum requirements for large text on AA, but not other text. And so there's, I'd say like looking at this, it looks so haphazard to me. I'm not seeing the value or the magic here that I think you probably want people to achieve, especially if you're approaching this from like a leadership perspective, right? If you're taking the point of view that you want to be like a UX design or a UX lead or like a staff designer, I need to see where people fall under you, because you'll be a people leader. And even this is all technical focus. This is all like systems and like other things. There's no sense of how you manage or lead people here. And I almost don't even see you across the portfolio. I hope you don't mind me saying that.
Okay, that's it. That's a good feedback. I mean, just the statement there is really about, the systems that I've worked with are systems that people use to do their work, so they don't have a choice to use it. That's the whole point of like have to live inside, but that may not be coming across, or maybe
it hasn't come across for me. I can discern what you're saying here in that moment. I also don't know though if that's something I'd want to like put on my portfolios. People don't choose my products; they're forced to use them, and that could go both ways. And so I'd be careful how you phrase that. But even still, I think that's also a lot of people, right? And so the kind of value propositions you would put up here would maybe be more about who you are, what kind of specific skills or problems that you solve, right? We mentioned this right at the very beginning, is that a lot of times when people come to your website, it's a person, right? There's always a person who's coming to your portfolio, and they have a set of questions and problems that they're trying to solve from their business, right? Their team has goals, and do you match those goals? and being able to speak to a sense of like, here are the things I help people solve problems for. Here are some examples. Here's some industries. Here's who I am. Helping them get a more complete picture of who you are and specifically your niche and stuff often aligns a lot better than what can sometimes be platitudes, right? I transform complexity into human clarity. A classic design platitude. We all hope that this is true for every designer everywhere, but putting it here doesn't necessarily bring me any value for you.
Okay, I like that feedback. Thank you. I want to ask something that you said when you first opened up. You said this looks vibe code. Now, I use Claude Code. I use a little hand coding. I do mock up in advance and share with Claude Code and provide it with lots of feedback. Is that necessarily a bad thing?
No, I don't think. Okay, well, Nate, how much time do we have to go into this topic?
We've got 12 minutes left for the session. I don't have a hard stop today, Tarika. I don't know about your schedule here, but we also have two other folk on the call that were probably on the list that we're probably not going to be able to get to today. So Mohan and Saif, I'm so sorry about that.
Okay, let's I'll do this real quick and we'll get in one more review.
Oh, Mohan, you're back in.
So I think when we're talking about AI, I think using AI to build websites is fine. That's totally good. I think that's reasonable. That's normal. We think about this as like any low code tool, any template type tool, right? It's always good to start there, but it's not good to end there. The reason I say that is like, this is basically accepting the default. And the default settings are good sometimes for like reference and to use, but the default often is that vibe code look. And so if I go anywhere and my sense is like, oh yeah, this is an AI default. This is an AI default animation in the background, or this looks like a bunch of work that's been all put together, jumbled up, but was maybe the default setting or a vibe setting, that is for me a red flag. Because what I want to see is intention. I want to see intent coding. I want to see intentional AI, which is when you bring a plan or even you organize things into a system afterwards. If we go here, we see a lot of like lack of intention. I'm not trying to be mean in saying this, but
No, please.
Right, like it seems like there's just a lot of lack of intention. We have this element over here, which does it raises and has a shadow on hover. This is not a button. There are buttons inside of here. They all have this little hover. And then this also has like the hover, but it also has like a little arrow that moves. It also has an accordion effect here, right? Totally, completely different. Almost feels like there's no intentional connection between these. They feel foreign. Going here, this is a totally different type of like navigation system. I've got tabs at the top now. We've got this like zoom effect that's happening. It doesn't feel different going directional, right? Even though it is directional in animation, it's not directional across the page or where I'm going. So this violates its own spatial system rule for navigational UX. We also have like the numbers here can feel really, really off. We see some classic AI artifacts. AI always loves to do this number system at the top and then gives it like a little tiny icon, which is fine. It's an aesthetic you can lean for. But again, when you see a lot of these aesthetics, it starts to signal default vibe code, low effort, not worth my time. And it ends up being disrespectful to show people this kind of content. Instead, where you show your intention and what your goals are and what you're hoping to accomplish, and using this as a tool to accomplish your goal, not just letting it, autopilot. Look how good I autopiloted my AI. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. It's a soapbox I can go on for a while, but I'll nip it there, so we can have some time for later. So
cool. Well, I did put pieces together from scratch, but I did use Claude Code to construct it. So I did mock up in advance, but I did again rely on Claude Code for certain transitions. But your point taken. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. There's some great examples of AI helping people accelerate their websites. In fact, I'll have people know that even the way I've built my own website is through the power of Claude Code and how I've done this. But I'm not sure I would have some of the same feedback about the connection and the general sense of fluidity for it. Let's go ahead and let's move forward though, so we can have the time for we can have some respectful time for the next person we need to review today, though. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Seraphin, we tossed a lot at you there. I put a link to our YouTube channel in the chat so you can go back and rewatch it because there's a lot of consume in there. And for what it's worth, my own website is also vibe coded. I think you're in a solid place. I think now it's just like tackling some UI stuff. I think your storytelling is really the hardest part, and I think you're doing well there.
All right, it's Mohan. Is that correct? Oh, Mohan's not here on the call.
Uh-oh. Mohan, I'm so sorry. Then the last one I have on the list today, which I don't think is the last in the chat if they're not here, is Saif Aldeen.
Also not here right now.
Oh,
okay,
no.
Okay.
Is it a sign? I mean, I could scroll back up in the chat, but timing-wise, it's making sense.
We've got Luiz. This is my Behance website, like advice on how better present my work. I think they're here. We'll go ahead and invite them up. We got one more. Wild card one. This one will be short, but you're here, so we can do it. So we'll go ahead and open your.
Hello. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So first of all, I am Brazilian, so my English maybe you guys can struggle to understand, but I will try my best. So actually, I'm 21, and I am working doing websites, and I have before worked in web development and full stack development. But I think I love doing UI UX stuff, so I just quit my job. Like I saved some money, quit my job to just focus in building websites and interfaces. So can I share my screen by any chance, or I can't?
Unfortunately not. We'll keep the screen here, but as we review some of your work, you'll be able to watch it on here.
Okay.
So if you want to, you can direct me where to go.
That's not a knock on you, by the way. Discord does not give you the ability to share the screen. It's a technical incapability we have.
Okay, no problem. So there's something I have to just say for you then. This website, my portfolio is kind of old, so if you check the message that I sent, I have a lot of links, and the real projects that I have built, it's the links that are not my portfolio. That is this one. Yeah, this one is the last one I have made. This from a coffee company, a local coffee company here in Brazil. And my goal here is just to, what should I focus on improving? What should I learn? Because I have reached no technical clients. And the problem with it is because when you reach no technical clients, they don't valorize your work. Like, it's kind of different, when a big company reach you to build an interface, they put so much value in your work. And this doesn't happen with no technical clients. So, yeah.
Sure. So I'm hearing, if I was rewinding this, I'm hearing you do web work for people. You help them build websites.
Yeah.
Second, you're wondering what you should include in here to be persuasive and marketable, so people choose you.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a different problem than one we typically solve during Feedback Friday. Feedback Friday, we will help review portfolios, case studies, resumes, etc., with the intention of leading towards better freelance marketability or even full-time employment positioning. Agency positioning and self-employment positioning are different hurdles because they require a very different mentality, right? Where it's no longer, when you think about a portfolio is a product, right? This is the product for Seraphin. He is a product, and his product is a process, a systems thinking that he would bring. Your position on a product has to be really, really different because you're selling a very specific type of product, and your market position has to be more nuanced, a little bit higher risk as well. So I have to take my foot off the gas pedal because this is not something I feel qualified to speak to. I don't know your audience well enough or your specific market conditions. Just know, though, that we hear and see you, and that it is really tough to be in this spot. The employment route, the agency route is a tough one, dude. It's a grind, but I have confidence you can do it, especially since you've gone this far. You said you have no necessary like technical abilities, and yet, I mean, you've done this. That's pretty good, man. That's like definitely a good start. It's probably just going to be about helping the people that you want to capture see the appeal, the value, and maybe the ease of the relationship of being there with them. But it really does come down to human relationships. That's all sales at my.
Luiz, I might have missed it. What was your goal for this call? Are you trying to dive into freelancing?
Yeah. So as I said, I have already got some clients with freelance, and I love doing this stuff. Like, I really enjoy the process. Like, you go and call on the client, you show your work, they approve or disapprove, show what I improve. So I have some problems with present my work. This is one of my problems. Like, I don't like the presentation, the case studies that I made on Behance. So I just want advice on what should I improve to get reached by people. And yeah, I think this is all.
Excellent. Love what Tim is. I love where Tim mindset is at with like, you've got a target audience. We're not super familiar with that target audience, so we'll have to take our rhetoric with some grain of salt, if that's making sense. I've got all kinds of thoughts when it comes to freelance effort. The types of artifacts that one might find on your portfolio will differ from that of somebody attempting to get full-time employment at a larger organization. So for example, with freelance work, you are now your own product. You are now selling services. You probably have more insight than we do in regard to who your target audience is and what your business strategy is. And for you, do you have any analytics built into your website? Because if not, that's probably the next place I would go. So you can now A/B test and create a funnel.
I don't have it.
Dope. Is there anything stopping you from diving into some of the analytical routes?
It's like a lack of knowledge. I don't know how I should
Perfect. That's great. What an easy problem to solve. So the first one I would probably do is Google Analytics as a real generic catch-all. This is the utility that enables you to measure the effectiveness of your own web page, the traffic sources, the mediums, the amount of popularity to certain sites. It does a plethora of all the things, right? The other one that Tim has pulled up is PostHog. This one's particularly interesting. This has competing resources with Google Analytics. For you, I don't know that I would buy anything just yet. I would just use PostHog's free service. And the one that I think PostHog is more valuable for you is the feature they have of screen recording. So you can watch people use your own site, like literally watch their cursor move around, and you can see how they're interacting with your site. And that'll enable you to measure, like, is this landing page working? How is their behavior changing? You can dive into the qualitative metrics of like, what's their behavior change? From there, I'd want to dive into a funnel. But let me pause there. Tarika, pull me back a bit. Where's your mind going from the freelance product route?
I agree as well. I think in terms of freelance, you are your own. You're selling services, no longer the process. Yeah, like I think. Definitely use analytics. That should, and I think just going through the case studies. I think some of your case studies are on Figma right now. I don't know if you could somehow get all of that on the website itself. That would just enhance my navigation a little bit. I don't have to jump to different surfaces. And just guide me, really. What do you want me as a client to see immediately?
Okay. So just for me, just see if I get it. So to get more clients on the position I am right now, I should focus on analytics, and this I kind of see where I am lacking on if I use the analytics.
If I were to emphasize Tarika's point here, I think you're doing great. If I were to emphasize it, How are you currently measuring success in your portfolio? Is it through referrals? Is it through calls? Is it through contact form?
Yeah,
Like,
this is the problem. I am actually searching for clients. They are not searching for me. This is the problem. I want to don't wait. I want to stop chasing clients, and I want they to look for me, find me on the internet.
Have you looked into optimize like SEO? How is your website performing? Um,
Yeah, if you type, I think if you type my name like locally here, I am one of the first that appears, but I don't know, like looks like people don't search for this here where I am. So I think I just moved to Behance. I don't know if my Behance portfolio is good. Like I only have one project.
Dribble is
So
another very interesting place, I think, where many people find design talent. But also Instagram, right? Like I think Dribble is only popular among designers. So if I were a client not in the design industry, that would be a place I would just want to find services.
and so in this case, can you guys like open my Behance and see my latest case study? I really doesn't like the final result, so I really love some advice.
So for Behance, I think we'll just being super quick. Behance serves Behance, which serves Adobe. And so even if I open your Behance, just keep in mind that spending time investing here, if you look at all the CTAs, the marketing that Behance does, is that their goal is for me to use their product, not for me to talk to you. And even if I did want to talk to you, you see here, I have to sign up. This is it's just a machine for Behance. So I do think Behance can be kind of a cool way for people to discover you. I would not want to rely on this for a client pipeline though, because even if I wanted to like hire you, I can just dismiss this.
Okay.
It's gone. But then even if I wanted to like, chat with you or do more work, I have to sign up and use the Adobe product. And this is a huge friction. This is a super dark pattern. So instead of investing more time on Behance, I would go and invest more time on your networking. Build your networks across not just like freelance areas, but like LinkedIn, places that the people you want to hire you could discover you. So for example, if you're looking for small, medium businesses, what are the social media platforms that small, medium businesses are on? Turns out it's Facebook, probably. Facebook tends to be where a lot of these businesses are. Instagram and other places, and kind of looking for that.
Which you guys have more success doing it? Which platform? Or out of those solutions that you guys bring me, which you guys think is the most like successful?
Which out of those social media platforms?
Yeah.
including the website in that equation.
Right. Of course.
I would argue your website is dramatically more effective.
The website, my own website.
Yeah. Tim, I've got a spiel here, but I don't want to cut off your thinking here. Is now a good time?
I think it is a good time. I would just say, Lucy, you're going to have to find, no matter what we say, you are going to have to find your own way in your own audience. But if you want people to discover you, yeah, you've got to go, you're going to have to go to them until they start coming to you by themselves. And so spending time on your website, your personal website, is much more powerful than spending time on Behance, for example. But building up domain authority so people come to your website means posting yourself across social media platforms. It could be LinkedIn if you're looking for enterprise type clients. It could be Twitter if you're looking for startup and founder type individuals. Could be Blue Sky if you have that kind of niche. You'll have to research your own audience and just go to where they are and then start being like a part of their environment. And then finding out what are their problems that they're solving and making sure you position yourself as someone who can solve those types of problems. And the analytics the analytics side of this whole thing we were talking about here, this is not like necessarily about capturing people. This is about measuring who's showing up and whether you're getting the people that you wanted, and then making sure that if someone comes to your website, are they actually interested in what you think they're interested in? Are you in the right positioning or not? And then kind of working there. And so I don't think there's a magic bullet or a magic platform. You probably are going to have to be on most of them or even all of them, right? You might even have to go to TikTok, which is not, which is different, right? You have to kind of be everywhere. This is the woes of self-starting, is that you kind of have to really have to like spread out. And then
I will try
eventually
that. I will
though,
try that.
what will happen is usually one or two of those will suddenly become your focus, because those ones will become the most successful. And then you just lean into those ones a little bit more than the others. But that takes time. That takes time.
And I don't know if this has been mentioned, but you could also explore TopTal, and there's one more. I don't know. I don't know if yeah, TopTal comes to mind, but I think there are some general freelance websites as well where people offer services for different things. So you could also explore that.
Okay, I will check that. So I think I have a lot to do, and I will bring some results for you guys in the next week. I will apply everything you guys said. And just one more question. What do you guys think about getting a degree in this area like UI, UX, and being a product designer? Do you guys think it is worth it investing a degree?
The
Just drop an
hurdle,
atomic bomb right in the middle of the conversation.
and I want to circle back to something previously too. The hurdle I have with answering the question is a degree in UX design worth it, is I have the cultural bias of the United States. And when it comes to your location, I don't have enough information to know if the cost value ratio there is beneficial for you. Here in the States, I think it's questionable. And that's a real nuanced conversation that we could talk about for the next 30 minutes. You're in Brazil, is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, I'm from Brazil.
Got it. In Brazil, I don't know how much university costs, and if it's dramatically less than that.
It's kind of cheaper. It's kind of cheaper, and you have also a free way to do it, but it's kind of unavailable because you need to be full time on the degree. You know.
Interesting.
You need to choose or you work or you study, and on the way you pay, like United States, it's kind of cheaper. It's not that expensive.
Well,
But here the problem is like when you have a degree, companies will valorize your work if you have a degree more than a guy that have experience. I don't agree with that. I think you should, put some value on a guy that have a lot of experience than a guy that just have a degree. But in Brazil, they don't do that.
Luiz.
yeah,
Go ahead.
uh, sorry, Nate. Yeah, I think if that is the case, I don't know, like, degree is not the only way. Like, you could also get certificates or diplomas. Those might be faster. Would that still fit the bill for the clients that you're looking for?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat, please?
Like, you don't have to specifically look at just degrees. You could also look at diplomas and certificates. Those are a lot faster to get, but they still will add some credentials to your profile.
Okay. Do you have like any recommendations or which certification should I look for?
Yeah, I think there are many, but I could look at some and share with Nate and Tim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll weigh in real quickly here. If you're an agency type work person, right? If you are starting your own business, your need to
Right.
have a degree probably is not as intense as an individual solo worker working either
Right.
freelance or for a full-time company, right? If you were going to get hired by a bigger org, they probably put more stock in you having an official degree versus if you're your own employer if you own your own business and you're running an agency and you build people's websites, I doubt those people that you build websites for care as much about you having a degree as if you can do your job effectively. And if you know how to be very friendly with them and to help them have confidence in you as a person. Just again, emphasizing the person aspect. It often comes down to the personal connections you make. Making personal connections goes a lot farther sometimes than even having like the greatest portfolio website online. And that's why networking is so powerful. It's because if you get in the same room as someone, you connect with them and you shake their hand, or even online, if you connect with them and you're able to have good moments, people will choose you by default, and becoming the default choice because you're inside of their circle is a lot more effective than trying to outperform literally the entire world sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay, guys. I learned a lot here. I am taking notes, so this is why I keep quiet sometimes. But you guys, like, you opened my mind. Like, I gonna check on these things, but I will take the team advice. And then I am the product, so I work more on present myself, get a better website, and I'm doing the analytics right now. I will do it right now. But I think it is all. So I really appreciate you guys for the opportunity.
Luiz,
And I'm so sorry for my English. I'm trying to improve.
your English is great. So sorry to cut you off. I want to throw one other thing at you if you still have time. Is that okay?
Oh, of course. Go ahead.
You earlier mentioned, how do I get clients to find me? And that is a question by which there are books behind me dedicated to answer, and degrees in marketing that are attempting to answer as well. That's a big question that every organization is looking for an answer for. There are tactics that one can achieve in order to make that marketing idea more effective. Now, in the marketing space, we would call that mindset a product orientation mindset. You have a product that you're attempting to sell. You're now attempting to push that product onto the market and sell it. Now, that's a product oriented approach. There's another approach that I think is probably wiser, and that is what's referred to as a marketing oriented approach. In this case, you're looking for a problem in the market space, and then you build a solution that attempts to solve that product. And it's got a real massive advantage of validating there's a need for that product first, rather than like trying to make a random product and pushing it, and maybe there's no need for it. So if I were in your shoes, I would want to do a couple of things here. One is, if your goal is to have clients find you, then one of the main strategies of doing this is to reduce the amount of competition. A main method of reducing competition is to reduce your focus and target a very specific niche for which that when a solution is needed, you are the only possible candidate available for that particular niche. So like right now I imagine you're advertising web design solutions for like the entire industry. You've got a coffee shop and that kind of shop and that kind of shop. So there's no niche just yet. Therefore, your competition is high. Now, let's say we position you as, hey, my name's Luiz. I develop websites for dentists in this particular city, specifically designed for kids. Now the competition is so greatly reduced that when somebody utilizes SEO and Google's for a solution to that, you are one of the only possible candidates that come up. Thus, clients are now finding you. You have reduced the amount of possible jobs you can get, but now clients are finding you as opposed to the reverse. So there's strategy A. Strategy B is now, let's take your website, position you for that niche. Now let's build 10 other websites, and each website is dedicated to that niche. Your goal now is, because you've incorporated Google Analytics, your goal now is to figure out, of all these niches that I'm now targeting and positioned around, which of them is successful, which of them is more successful than the other. Then you can sacrifice the other 9, find which of these problems is most effective for you to solve, and just focus your business on that one. If I were in your shoes, that would be the direction I would target. And thanks to AI, building 10 websites, really not a problem anymore. You can scale so effectively. Let me pause there. How is that rhetoric sounding to you? Is all that making sense? Are there any friction points that you may not be able to accomplish in any of that?
Yeah. I have already think about getting a niche, but I don't know which niche to choose, So
that's the ultimate question.
This kind of hard. So I just think I have the right target audience that I want to reach. I think this is the start to choose my niche. I want to reach more companies and not more individual clients like dentists, like nutritionists, those type of clients. No, I want to reach more companies, but I don't want to be a full time job. You know what I'm saying? Like I want have a contract, and then I don't know, they reach me and they say, oh, we have this project we're launching then, and we need the interface. So who can I reach to resolve this to make my interface? Then is where they search and they find me. You guys got it or
I don't know that I'm fully following along. Tarika, you're nodding your head. Were you following the rhetoric there?
let me just simplify. Let me just simplify. I
follow.
don't have the niche, but I have the target audience that I want to reach. You guys got it?
That is your niche. Your target audience is the niche.
Yeah. But like it's kind of I don't
Your target
know.
audience is very broad though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
have a very
want to
broad
reach
target
companies.
audience.
I want to reach companies. This is the who should I
Yeah,
am.
which is not a
I
niche.
want target. Yeah. This is right.
Think of this as a sliding scale. On the left side, you have niche, and the right side you have possible jobs available to you. This is a direct sliding scale. The closer you get to niche, the fewer companies will be available to purchase your service, but the more effective you will be at getting those services. So now it's a question of you of like how broad do you want your target audience to be? Are you trying to get more jobs with a more generalistic view or fewer jobs with a very niche view? Every single marketing book behind me will argue that niche is the correct strategy to go.
Okay. So I should look more for the niche,
We also talk about niches a little bit like a mountain.
right?
Once you're at the top of a mountain, you're at the top of the mountain and you can't be anywhere else. But when you're at the top of this mountain, this is what people see first. You're up here at the very top. And if you tried to be at two mountains at the same time, well, you're going to end up being right in the middle of them. You're either going to be somewhere on the hillside or in the valley. And what ends up happening is that you are less effectively positioned than if you just chosen to be at the top of one of these.
Okay.
Now, there are sometimes mountains on top of mountains, right? So you could say, like, I am the best dental designer of all time, and I'm the best, like, dental designer for this type of website design, right? You can niche into a niche. But generally, the more niche you get, the higher up the mountain you go, and the more effective you are at communicating your specific skill. I want to say this gently. I don't want to overly disabuse you of how you think hiring works and how the market works, but I do have a general impression that you might be underestimating the amount of effort that goes into building this kind of pipeline. And then I don't think you're going to be able to do this without it being your full-time focus. And even your full-time focus being more than a 40-hour-a-week focus. Like, this is the kind of thing people make it their entire livelihood to focus on this and to start building their pipelines. And it takes years. It takes years of momentum to get this going. And then once you're going, it's hard to stop because you're in here. And so if you're choosing this, just know that this is not something you can kind of like do on the side and people are going to naturally find you. You're going to have to constantly be competing to be at the top of this mountain, because guess what? There are other people who are trying to go to the top of the mountain as well. And you're going to have to compete alongside them. And, you know, if you're thinking about your own skills, your own abilities, any of these clients could easily choose and hire someone else. And it's all about you being the very first person in the room and being the right person in the room and also the right room, right? So there's so much that happens here. It's just being careful that you're prepared for that. You know, this is not something you can kind of set up and it's a passive money win or something like that. This will be a lifelong pursuit for your career if you go this route. And that is super rewarding for a lot of people. Definitely worthwhile for people who enjoy that process and are prepared for it.
Right.
Plus one to that, I think you have to essentially become a brand of your own. People who
Right.
are building this kind of like freelance services, they are not just offering like their main services, which is maybe in your case building websites for these specific niche customers, but also attending events which fall under the same niche, where you might find these target customers and you socialize with them. You participate in the same events. So that's what I've seen. I think in not in just design, but like one of my friends is in music, and she has created a very specific niche for herself, but that has happened over time, over a span of a couple of years. And she's
Right.
done a lot of different types of outreaches. Um, so now she's a brand of her own, and people just
Uh-huh.
know to reach out to her.
Right, right. Yeah, I think so. This is our problem. Like I literally don't have a niche. I like you guys said, I made it website for everyone. Like you need a website. Oh, here you can hire me. So I will take that. I'll take this advice.
Don't worry, you also don't start off with a niche. Typically, people start on the broad side, and over time, they find that they're good at certain things, and so they lean into those things that make them their audience. This is kind of what Nate was mentioning, right? Is that if we put you in the middle of this and you try, that's a 2, 4, 5. If you try 6 different ideas, and you find that idea number 3, this is the one people like the most, then you say, all right, I'm no longer going to work on these other ideas. Even though I can do them, I'm just not going to do them, because number 3 is the one that people like the most. And this is now your niche, right? Is that you've made a choice here. But I mean, it's all down the road for you. You'll figure it out. Lots is coming. Keep working, and we look forward to seeing you maybe in the future as this continues along for you.
Okay, okay. That's not shortcut, right? That's not a shortcut. I just need to figure out myself what will work. But thank you guys. I really appreciate what you guys doing here. So I am really a great fan of Teen. So Teen, it's a pleasure to be here talking to you. I watch all your videos. So this is all I think.
Luiz, really appreciate
Thanks.
the time. Super appreciate you being willing to hop on here with us. That's going to do it for Feedback Friday today. We are going to enter the Q&A portion of what we would normally do here. Tarika, pleasure talking with you. We enter Q&A. You are welcome to take off now. You're welcome to hang out with us for Q&A. But I also know that in the amount of time you have donated us today, we could have finished watching Fellowship of the Ring at this point. So we have taken so much of your generous donation here. Don't feel obligated to hang out.
Sure. But thanks for inviting me, and this is great. Really appreciate what you guys are doing here. So, yeah.
Yeah, we look forward. If you do take off, we do look forward to maybe having you reprise in the past and seeing you in the future. Reprise in the future. What am I saying? We look forward to maybe having you back in the future, or even more regularly, depending on how things go for you and us. And thanks. Appreciate your time. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thanks, folks. Thank you.
There's a link to Tarika's LinkedIn in the chat for the folks out there who want to connect.